Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on September 24th, 2021 at approximately 6:31 a.m. PST. Well, just about done this little sequence. We've only got another 3 days today included. But thus far, for those of you that are just catching this first video, this video is the first one, we have thus far in the last 10 days-ish covered thought, choice, success. We broke down into 4 different videos: purpose, plan, persistence, and patience. Then we covered creation, foundation, expansion, community, self-awareness, and prosperity. Okay. Yesterday, we tied it off with discrimination. So today, we are going to talk about awareness and how that works. Now, we covered self-awareness a few days ago. Awareness is taking the whole picture into consideration. Now, understand, it was phrased one day by a friend of mine. And the way he put it was, to know oneself is to know all. The reality of that is that once you understand what makes you tick, what makes you content, quite often you can extrapolate to what other people may enjoy, especially when it comes to the treatment of them. You also will, something that really does add up. People have talked about all sorts of things. Like, there's many of you, and now if you're listening to this video, the odds are you don't fall into this category, but many people are told that, if you're dealing with a psychic, that you're dealing with the devil. Well, here's the thing. Okay, there's a number of books. As a matter of fact, I should have done that. Where are they? Right there. I will be right back. I'm not going very far. What I've done is I've been keeping track of which books I've been reading. To date, starting in 2007, when I actually started tracking it, I have read 62 different books. Before I pass away, I intend on reading another 40. I intend on getting 100 books read. Okay. Now, this is actually the last book in an encyclopedia. Okay, that I had when I was a kid. I've already read the entire encyclopedia. This one is the Index and Parent's Guide. Well, in all fairness, I really didn't read the Index, but I am in the middle of reading the Parent's Guide. By the look of this, I'll probably be another week before I finish this one. But there's some really interesting things. Some of you my age will remember another children's doctor by the name of Dr. Spock. Okay, and there was another author by the name of Irma Bombeck. Okay, now every book I've read, I've got the information on them in a little chart. This is why I know how many. One of the things about becoming aware of what's going on is to read the information from wherever you get it. Now, I've read some self-help manuals. I've read various different, well, in all fairness, I actually took a medical encyclopedia and read it cover to cover. Okay. It's amazing. A lot of the information from the past, people seem to be completely overlooking. But the more you understand of the world around you, and that requires reading. Okay, it requires either reading other books or talking to people that have gone there, that have been there. Now, this said, the other book that I'm in the middle of reading is this one here that I'm sure most of you recognize. And this is where I tick off a lot of people. This is the King James Version of the Holy Bible. I am reading it. My dad told me a long time ago, he encouraged me to read it myself, cover to cover. Which is really kind of ironic when you realize that I was raised in a church, and that's how I was taught by my father about a number of things. Okay. But he always encouraged me to read this. Now, better late than never. He passed away 5 years ago. But I did start reading the book. Okay, and what I found in this, and again, don't take my word for it. Frankly, don't take anybody's word for it. If you happen to be reading the Bible or the Quran or any one of the other religious tomes, okay, read them yourself, okay, because there are things that people are not being told. Now, I brought up the issue of many people are told that dealing with a psychic is a bad thing, but the fact you're listening to my video, the odds are you're not one of those people. Okay, but you may know somebody that is. Okay, now I'm not going to start quoting passages, so get over that thought. But I will tell you there is one thing that came very clear. Okay. Does it tell you, like, and we'll start here. This book reminds you that time with the kids, with your family, in the family where the kids are talking, where the kids have their say, so that you can hear what they're thinking is very important. Well, this particular book does tell you not to let people, not to hang around with psychics, with dream interpreters, etc. But there's something they don't tell you that most of the priests out there will not tell you, and that is that the other part of that sentence is you don't hang around with them if they're telling you to follow a different god. Now, I will tell you wholeheartedly, do I believe in God, in a higher power, in source, in whatever you want to call it? Absolutely. Am I going to tell you that I'm absolutely 100% accurate? No. The only thing I will tell you is I won't lie to you to make you feel better. Unless you actually ask me to, which is really a weird request, but I have had it happen. As you read through the different books, whether it's, I know one person that read the dictionary, the Webster's dictionary. This particular person read through it and actually in the dictionary found 8 spelling mistakes. Now, I'm all for dry reading. If that's what you desire to do, go ahead. See if you can find them. I haven't bothered. Okay. But I do encourage you to read. Okay. Once I get this book, I'm actually reading one other book, but considering it's online, considering it's digital, I certainly ain't going to show it to you. But the more you're aware of what's going on in the world around you, the easier it is for you to compensate for it, to cope with it, and to work your own life around it. Now, this includes that terribly boring thing that everybody complains about. You have to understand what's going on in the political field, which, quite frankly, I am personally very lax in. Okay, I see some pretty dense things happening. And I have worked in the political field. I was on a board of directors for a park. Okay. And that went completely sideways because of other people. Okay. When you have laws that are made, even societal laws, like in the park society I worked with, we, as a board of directors, we set a bunch of rules in place. No sooner were the rules in place than some of the board members broke them blatantly, and the other ones backed them up on it. If you're going to put laws in place for a society, for a community, you have to stand your ground on them. If you don't, things will happen. In this case, they didn't, and the park ended up being essentially turned over. Well, what? It was turned over to the park, over to the city. Problem was, when the park was donated, it was donated with the stipulation it was never sold to the city. Now, if I had been more aware of the political field and the way that politics worked at the time, I may have been able to do something about it. But because I did not, I didn't have the ability to deal with it. And of course, I didn't have the social graces to deal with it. So, again, the more you understand, there is a saying that goes, knowledge is power. But it's not power over other people. Knowledge is power over self, because you're the only one in existence that you can actually control. Okay, now there are a few of you that are capable of doing other things, but karmic law dictates don't. Okay, so when you're looking at things, when you're looking at the way the world is, be absolutely certain that you gain all the information you can. Now, whether this means going back to school, going to a church or to a temple, or simply talking to people on the street, it is amazing how many people that live on the street actually know more about life than the people living behind a computer, behind a gaming computer. But the more you know, the easier it will be for you to get through your life. It will also be easier, and don't take my word for it. Give it a shot. Do the work, because you're the only one on the planet that can do the work. You're the only one in existence that can do the work. Okay. And understand, there's a lot to be said about reading history books and what have you. And that is a very simple saying that history is written by the winner. Okay. Or history is written by the survivors. Now, in my case, I just happen to have memories that date back a lot further than most. But the more you're aware, most people have heard about Stephen Hawking. Now, I do not profess to understand the mathematics that man used, but I will tell you this. I made a comment because I was talking to somebody about something called the multiverse, and I'm not going to go into that right now, but what I told this individual I was talking to about was that Stephen Hawking had almost figured out how to explain it. Well, sadly, Stephen Hawking died before he actually got it explained, but the person I was talking to found a what the heck was it? A treatise of some form that he had written that touched on the surface of it, which, as that individual put it, did corroborate what I'd already told them, and what I'd already told them about what he had discovered. Okay, there's a lot of different things. Now, the more you understand, like for instance, we know that at least if you've gone through basic science, you know that matter comes in four forms: energy, energy, gas, liquid, and solid. Okay, the funny part about it is that in basic physics we understand that solid is not in truth solid. It's simply slower moving. And this is where I run into the problem with the definition of different dimension and different vibratory rate, which I think is the biggest problem that I run into with that. But the reality is, when you take a look at atoms, mankind is gone. There's nothing between the atoms. And I'm telling you, there's enough between the atoms to create a shock wave, which is of electrons passing between them. Now, this comes from understanding the way that the universe works, not by being able to explain it. Now, it was said one day that lack of proof of existence does not prove non-existence. Okay, the fact that you cannot prove something works does not mean it doesn't work. Okay, prime example of that is the bumblebee. Modern physics years ago, and I don't know if they've changed it, but years ago, they had this concept, the bumblebee, because of its wings, because of the size, shape, and the frequency that they were, and the rate of flap, that they could not fly. The common joke was nobody bothered telling the bumblebee. Okay, so it carried on and did its own flying. The more you understand, when you're talking about something as simple, and well, I'll call it simple, and I don't do it just yet. But if you take a look at it, the reality is, if I'm going to pick up my coffee cup, okay, and I put the coffee cup in my hand, the reality of that is I'm holding on to it, but it is actually only one molecule to the next molecule, which means when we look at psychokinetics, what you would know is telekinetics. Okay, reaching out and grabbing something on the other side of the street and on the other side of the room. And no, I am not at the level where I can do that right now. I used to be, which is something I am working on. When I was a kid, I used to do that. But, and actually about 2 years ago, I had that happen again, which means it's coming back and it's something I'm going to work on. I do know a chap myself that I have seen that will generate sound waves from the palm of his hand. I knew another one years ago that could actually start a fire simply by accelerating the molecules around the paper. Okay. But the reality of it is the difference between picking up a coffee cup and simply clapping your hands together from this far apart, it is still one molecule to the next. And all you're doing is you move one molecule. Now I can feel it when I do this. Okay, I just move the hand just that little bit. I can feel the impact over here. But that's molecule to molecule. Clearly, my hands aren't physically hitting each other. But the more you're aware of this, the more readily you'll be able to modify things. Like something that I don't know, I do not know where I got the information. But think about it, and don't take my word for it. Okay. But when you're looking at getting a point across by a picture, at least for me, what I find is if you go to the center of the page, right? If you go right to the center of the page, you take a look at the middle of it, and where the eyes tend to focus is just up and to the right a little. Okay, sorry, that's the left. Just up and to the right a little. That's about your focal point. Okay. So when you're designing something for somebody to look at, like a poster, understand that if you take that center point of the page and move it up, like for instance, titles, when you're doing the title of a book, you go above the center line, just a little off to the right, that's where people will focus. Now, of course, as we know, okay, when I take a look at the books I've been writing, normal routine is to put the title right at the top. Okay. But this, if you take a look at the gentleman on, this is actually Jeremiah Wollstrand, who is he's the lead protagonist. But the center point being here, so it draws the attention over to here. Okay, it's something to consider when you're looking at web design, when you're looking at poster design, when you're looking at school projects, or even for that matter, if you're looking at your own writing. Okay, gravity works. Okay, now, did I move that around? No, I still have to move that. I gotta find a way to move that. That'll go over there probably, but we'll figure it out. Anyway, the more you are aware of where things work, and this will require your own research. Okay, do your own, don't just take my word for it. The more you're aware of how things work, the easier it will be for you to modify the energy patterns so they work more effectively for you. It's just the way of reality. Okay. Now, from your standpoint, take a look at the reality of it and see, are you content with the way your life is working? These are all tools I personally put to use. Okay, which is why... it's over there. Which is why the more you understand about how you respond, the easier it will be for you to compensate or for you to cope with the way other people respond. I got up like today. Oh, that's the other thing. If you're aware of this, okay, most people talk about this issue of 8 hours of sleep, and I figured it out one day, primarily because I was bored. But I figured, what happens if you're, everybody, people talk about the requiring 8 hours. And I always found that made me groggy anyway. But I figured, okay, what happens if you don't lose quality of life and you don't lose your health? How much time would you actually gain if you only slept 4 hours a night? Don't take my word for it. Okay, do your own calculations. But what I calculated was if you only sleep 4 hours a night and your life is still your level of life and temperament is still the same, you gain about a month and a half living time, which is one of the reasons why I can get as many things done as I do. Okay. Now, I've been hanging on to a lot of stuff, and what I came to understand is there's a lot of things I've been hanging on to for nostalgia purposes that are currently being gotten rid of. Okay. Some people would say, well, you got to hang on to it. I'm not a millionaire. I don't have the room to hang on to everything. And I certainly don't have the inclination to do it anymore. But I became aware that for me, that doesn't work. Okay, so I'm getting rid of a lot of stuff. Holding myself up in my house has really helped in getting that to sink in, which is why I've got a trunk full of stuff getting thrown out, and it'll go out today after I drop my son off at school. Okay, but the more you are aware of what you're content with and how the energy in your life is working, the more readily you'll be able to alter the path it's on, to direct the energy where you require. Now, you cannot, energy doesn't get destroyed, it gets modified. You can change energy, you can change its form, you can alter its direction, you can guide it someplace. But in all fairness, it's kind of like trying to change a river. You don't stop water from moving. Don't believe me? Freeze a solid, see what happens with the ice flow. It still moves. Granted, not fast, but it does move. Okay. I had the pleasure of talking to somebody the other day. It was absolutely priceless. Because of my connection to Earth. Okay, and that's who I call Yldrbac. Well, in all fairness, that's what she told me to call her. But you would know her as Mother Earth, as Gaia. Okay. I ran into somebody that actually ran into, from their description, actually ran into an earth elemental. Okay. Yeah, my life is a little different, but understand the amount of information that is out there. Okay. They say truth is stranger than fiction. And it really is. Okay, my life is more science fiction than anything else. But the more you understand about it, the easier it will be for you to function in this world. And the big message, if I didn't actually, I don't think I did tell you. If you like the video, do give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, because there's a lot more information coming out. Back on March 6th of this year, I started doing this journey. And it has evolved way beyond what I was planning on. Okay. But it does have, there are things that have to be done with it. The reality of life is this. The more you understand of the way it works, the easier it is to repair things that you may think are irreparable. Okay, I was told my eyesight is irreparable. They were wrong. Okay, I was told my blood pressure was irreparable. They were wrong. Okay, there is very little that cannot be accomplished in this world. Okay, and the bizarre thing about it is this. Whether you believe you can alter your life, or you believe you can't, either way, you're going to be right. Now, sometimes it requires the faith of somebody else, and this is why you surround yourself with people that are encouraging you to get up and get on with your life, that are encouraging you to do the things that are karmically properly aligned. Okay, but you may not have the courage to get up and do. I had a young lady that had been told she was going to be stuck in a wheelchair for life. She was only 17 at the time. And she told me herself that the only reason she came to me was because her mother believed that I could help her. She really didn't believe that I could. And in all fairness, I never gave her any guarantee. All I told her is I would do what I could. Okay, well, the long and the short of it was she's walking to this day. About a year after we pulled her out of the wheelchair, we ran into her in the grocery store. She wasn't even on a cane. And at that point, she told us that when she first came to us, she had already been in a wheelchair for 3.5 years. Now, I am not a medical doctor. There's a lot of things I'm not. Subtlety is another one of them. But I will tell you, when sometimes borrowing the belief of another will help put your own life in order. If you don't have enough faith in yourself, turn to the people that are supporting you and borrow their faith. Quite often, that is all it takes. But I shouldn't say all it takes, because you're still going to have to do the work. But the more aware you are of what makes you tick, of what helps, of what motivates you, the more adept you're going to be at modifying where the energy runs. Okay. Which is why I can get as much accomplished as I do. It's kind of a weird setup on occasion, but what the heck. But this is why I say when we're talking about awareness, we are not talking about just, we're not talking about just remembering what other people say and, I've got a degree after my name. Okay. Here's one for you. There's lots of people that will tell me, I don't believe in anything I can't see. Well, I don't know about you, but most people, as far as I'm aware, cannot see oxygen. But they still believe it exists. Okay. The example I usually use to people is, okay, you can't believe what you see, that's fine. You cannot unequivocally prove to me that right this moment, New York City exists. Now, I'm on the other side of the continent. Okay. I'm over in Kelowna, BC, Canada. But you cannot prove to me that New York City exists. Yes, you can tell me it does. I've seen all the pictures, etc., etc. That is not proof in my eyes. That is absolutely, you show me that picture, it will show me that picture exists. But the brass tacks of it is, that's all it shows. This does not mean I don't believe it exists. I absolutely believe it exists. Okay. But you have to realize there is so much more to the world than what you have been taught thus far. Okay. The only difference between you and the most successful people in the world, the most prominently known people in the world, okay, are the people, the only difference between you is they've had better publicity or they found a way to make something stand out. Now, I do encourage you, like I've been watching the internet as in watching Facebook, Twitter, etc. And I noticed something. There are a staggering number of you that will post the most embarrassing moments of celebrities. It is amazing how many people look up to celebrities or look up to famous people and then go out of their way to make them look less impressive. To embarrass them. Ask yourself this. Karmic law says, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Be aware when you post embarrassing pictures of other people. You're treating them in a way that I'm pretty certain you're not going to like if somebody does that to you. Okay. Be aware of the impact of your words and your actions on those around you. Okay, because I will tell you, there is no functional difference between anybody on this planet. We are all starting right here, right now. Now, if you've got, the reality is that everybody in that respect is exactly the same. How you got to where you are in life doesn't really matter in the big scheme of things. You are here right now. You can't change how you got here. Excuse me. But you can decide on how you're going to live from here on out. So with that in mind, and we think we're running out of, well, no, we know we're running out of time, yeah. Okay, now, we keep these down to a half hour. So with that in mind, until tomorrow, and I will be back again tomorrow. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel and remember to hit that alert button to let you know when the next video comes up. And I will be back to talk to you tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.